You know, we're so focused on trade wars these days that we miss the possibility of actual war these days, especially when it comes to China. Again, the tit for tat on what's coming to this country.
Heck of a lot like B1s there, don't they?
The fact of the matter is we're told that the Chinese are already targeting a number of U.S. sites for the just-in-case scenario of war. Wouldn't be the first superpower to look at doing that, but the fact that it's moving so fast did get people noticing. Among them, retired four-star General, Fox News senior strategic analyst Jack Keane. General, always good to see you. What do you make of this, and where are they building up their oomph here?
Well, first of all, China's goals are very clear. We used to wonder, you know, where is China going? Are they just going to stay closeted on becoming part of the international marketplace and opening up their economy, or they have designs outside mainland China? Now it's clear. In writing, what they want to do is dominate and control the Asia Pacific and isolate the United States. And also in 20 years, President Xi has said this, want to surpass the United States as the preeminent global power in the world today. To do that, they have to build up their military. They are conducting the most rapid buildup of a military of any country in the world, to include what we are doing right now with the Trump defense buildup. And why are they doing that? Because the United States in the Asia-Pacific region has been a dominant military power for years. They want to at least have parity with us, because that will give them leverage over all of our allies in the region. They don't have any allies in the region except Laos and Cambodia and North Korea. So all the rest of those countries out there are allied with us. And they're putting significant pressure on those countries. Well, first of all, the capabilities is much greater than just bombers. They've got long-range missiles that from mainland China can reach every one of our air bases in the region. They got anti-ship missiles that can hold our carrier battle groups at bay so they can't launch the
F-16 clone and B1
to help one of our allies in the region. They are transforming their air, maritime, and ground forces to include increase in space technology. So that's where they're going with this military buildup. It's significant, and they're doing it.
Coincidence? I mean, it looks just like a B1.
But they want to use it as leverage to gain geopolitical influence and control.
That is, well, it's not our land either. It's closer to their neck of the woods. But what do we do about that?
Well, we've got to work with our allies and come up with a comprehensive strategy to do this. The administration has taken a step in the right direction, and it's a big one. It walked away from Obama's understanding of the world. We have identified Russia and China as major threats to U.S. national security, and China being the long-term strategic threat. And the only way you solve a problem like that is the way we have solved those problems in the 20th century, and when we had the Soviet Union as a major threat, and that is to work with our allies in the region and do it collectively. And we need a comprehensive strategy to do that. In terms of implementing the defense strategy and the national security strategy, that really hasn't taken hold yet, in my judgment. I've just come back from Southeast Asia, and I'll flat tell you that these are our allies in the region, and they are very concerned that China is really outpacing us in the region. And you mentioned it in the introduction, economic warfare. They are the major capital investors in Southern Asia, in Southeast Asia, in Latin and South America, and in Africa, and rapidly becoming the same in the Middle East. What is all that investment about? It's about getting geopolitical influence and control. That's what that is all about. And we've got to get into this and compete more favorably. Gone are the policies of the Obama administration, fortunately. And this administration is moving in the right direction.
Hopefully we can reverse the damage.
To be frank about it.
And then there's China. The Pentagon warning in a new report that China is likely training for bombing strikes against U.S. targets while developing its nuclear capabilities. Joining us now is retired U.S. Naval Captain Chuck Nash is here. Captain Nash, this is a serious matter. Your bottom line assessment.
It's like a full-bird current.
Well, the bottom line assessment, Phil, is we have to put this all into historical context. And that is that China, in human history, has been the world's preeminent military and economic power longer than it hasn't been in modern times. So what they're trying to do is reassert the primacy in that hemisphere, and they are out to show the United States that by proof of capability and shows of will and determination that they are going to build out and become that preeminent power. And it's up to the United States then to figure out how do we want to deal with that. But their course is set. They've been playing a long game, and they're out to, in the words of the Chinese military philosopher Sun Tzu, to make their position unassailable.
They have definitely been playing a long game. So you're saying now China is indeed a threat. If you're saying that, Captain Nash, in what ways is it most threatening to the U.S.?
I don't think it's a military threat because China is a rational actor. It is a diplomatic threat, and here's what I mean by that. If the Chinese, they view Taiwan as a rogue province. And the Chinese have always realized that in their long history, they've only been really weak when they were divided. The People's Liberation Army, the PLA, that have been, and their Air Force that have been running all these exercises recently, that was a force that was predominantly used to keep China together. It was to suppress internal divisions. Now what they're doing is they're looking at Taiwan and they're saying that rogue republic, unless we get it back, that rogue province, unless we get it back, we're not truly whole. And as long as we're not whole, we're vulnerable. It's a very serious issue for them, Arthel.
So,
go ahead,
if I may, having said what you just said, hearing that, Captain Nash, so then how does China see the U.S.'s view of Taiwan?
Yeah. I think what they are viewing is they need to get Taiwan back, and they see the United States with the military and diplomatic agreements to help to protect Taiwan. We've sold them since 2010, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 billion worth of military hardware. The Trump administration just approved a $1.6 billion sale of technology and military hardware. And the 2019 National Defense Authorization Act has a whole section in it that talks about bolstering Taiwan's defenses. So here's the diplomatic tension that this sets up. If Taiwan were to fall under Chinese pressure to rejoin China, or if China were to militarily force them to do so, if the United States did nothing, the United States' word in any diplomatic matter is null and void, and I mean, there will be hell to pay. We did not have defense agreements with the Ukraine. What we did, though, have is something that was thrown under the bus, and that is the United States, Russia, and the UK guaranteed Ukraine their political sovereignty if they were to give up their nuclear weapons, which they did. Then the Russians took Crimea, which was part of Ukraine at the time, historically long a part of Russia, but at the time part of Ukraine, and that really threw the agreement under the bus. With Taiwan, were that to happen, that wouldn't be a leak in the dam, that would be the dam collapsing.
So if the dam collapses, then perhaps there would be some sort of military action in which the United States would get in on Taiwan's side. Then you're going to have Russia who would back China.
Possibly who would back China. Maybe the Russians would just sit out a major confrontation and not take any scars. But the Chinese, I don't think, will go to war, directly to war with the United States over this. Again, they're playing a long game. They wait out administration after administration, keep working the edges, keep working the margins and the seams to get what they want. Now, what happened recently, when I say recently, within the last 5 years, they were playing a very quiet game. They were building out their capability, taking their military, which was this massive manpower-intensive thing, and instead investing money in new technology and refocusing their militaries. Now, all of a sudden, this is broken out, and it's unavoidable. You can't help but see what they're doing, and they are building that Sun Tzu unassailable region where to try to get in there militarily would be extremely difficult.
But they've done it quietly, covertly. We also knew they were doing it, but they haven't been stopped.
They haven't been stopped, and I think part of it is there was a general, a Chinese general, who, in talking about war between China and the United States, said, "Are you really willing to sacrifice Los Angeles for Taipei?" Well, I'll bet you most people in the United States couldn't find Taiwan on a map, let alone know that Taipei is the capital of Taiwan. So when you start looking at these things, what the Chinese are doing is another Sun Tzu thing, and I hate to make this sound like a war college lecture, but one of the other things Sun Tzu said was the best way to win a war is defeat the enemy in his mind before you have to fight it. And that, I think, is part of this too. They are demonstrating capability. They are showing that they have a military capability that is building and building. They've been working cyber. We know they've been stealing our defense secrets and our commercial technology secrets. We know that they're pushing cyber, not just hacking. So all of these things are coming to fruition. And then the question is, so the United States, we're serious about this. Are you? Los Angeles? Taipei?
Wow.